Amazon have just revealed their massive 2.5-minute teaser for the upcoming Lord of the Rings of Power show, and today we will be doing an in-depth breakdown of the latest scenes, clips, montages, moments and audio that we have seen and heard so far. So without further ado, let's get right into it. The first scene we see is the same Numenor shot, which has the statue of past Numenorean kings and could even be the Valley of Kings that led into Armenelos. We hear familiar music, the Rivendell theme, the one you hear in this shot in The Hobbit. But then we cut to Galadriel, who mutters, "When the world was so young." This is followed by a person walking up a hill who we revealed as being Finrod, and when he gets higher up we see the city of Tirion in Valinor. But then we see a close zoom in on one of the two trees, and again a big emphasis on the two trees of Valinor, which is quite detached from the Second Age setting, so maybe this is part of the first episode, flashbacks bits, or even part of a prologue. Then we hear an unnamed female vocalist singing, quote, come to me, let's fly away, all lands far away," which is actually part of a similar song that Treebeard sang in The Lord of the Rings, where he said, come back to me, and say my land is fair," which is happening in fact between an Ent and an Entwife. So maybe this is just another hint possibly of the inclusion of Entwives, similar to this shot we got in the earlier teaser. We then hear "Let's fly away," and once we pan over this mountain with a company trekking across, we see an eagle fly in the sky, so that was another nice interlinked touch with the lyrics. This company seems to be Galadriel's company, which are trekking through Ferodoaeth, looking for evil. One of the best shots from the teaser is in this next montage, which firstly shows this shot of Lindon, this shot of Khazad-dûm, and then this human village, which is in fact Bronwyn's village, the one that is in this still, and one which will be receiving some orc raids from some of the leaks, and even night shoots being confirmed by Bronwyn actor Nazanin Boniardi. So these three shots are shown in a sequence while a Harfoot is narrating and talking about all the races and their current status. Quote, elves have forests to protect, dwarves their mines, men's their field of grain. However, the final line says, but we Harfoots have each other, which gives off the impression that at the start of this show, the Harfoots are the race that have no home and aren't settled. To showcase this, when Miss Harfoots blows this instrument, this is because they saw the nomad creatures with the rings from this shot here in the first tree teaser, and they have some yellow grass disguise to blend in with the nature so they don't get captured. This explains a lot of the grassy and natural costumes to blend in with the environment that the Harfoots have been wearing so far in a lot of the promotional material. The next shot is us seeing the meteor land, and we actually now know the proximity of this landing, as this rock, which has a hole in it, is the same one we see in the walking nomad shot in the first teaser, so it's going to be around in this area, presumably to the east. We then hear Elrond say, "You have fought long enough, Galadriel," alongside us seeing Fabian McCullum's elf character, who in this montage Galadriel looks quite frustrated with. Maybe there was a disagreement happening here, such as one of them wanting to go back. But now we see Galadriel's sword in the ground, and comparing it to the one Adar is wielding in this poster, there are huge similarities, especially around the tilt of the sword. But Adar looking like a more corrupted and twisted version of the sword. This is an interesting link between Galadriel and Adar. Here we see the elven company crossing through either Ferodoaeth, which is the most likely scenario, or could either rather unlikely be the Helcaraxe, and we are seeing Galadriel cross the grinding ice. But here we are seeing Galadriel still being concerned with the shadow or threat by saying the lines, "The enemy is still out there, but the question now is where." but then we see them enter this black fortress slash stronghold, which could be the place where the ice troll is hiding, as for a split second you can see an orc or other creature move across the screen behind the company in the bottom left of the frame, as if they are walking into a trap. Then we get this shot of a coastal elven city, and there is some debate over whether this is Ostinethil or not, but this lake could be the meeting of the two rivers that the city in the region is built around, so it could be. However, this leak also comes to mind where an elven coastal city gets destroyed quite early on, which might link to this scene later on. Then we see Elrond and Galadriel again having a back and forth around how much evil they have seen and experienced, with Elrond ending with "I have seen my share." And then we cut to this shot of people drowning in the water, with one even having a spear through him alongside builders, towers, or even a city being submerged underwater. There are three main theories, with the first one being that this is a spoiler warning, one of Miriel's visions of the downfall of Númenor, and there are some interesting similarities with these towers looking similar, and more compellingly, the ship that Isildur is on is similar to this one submerged underwater, almost identical in fact. The next theory is that this could be the Kinslaying at Alqualonde, and this will be a First Age reference. The final one, which is really unlikely, is that this is the coastal city that gets submerged underwater and that the men have to rebuild later on. However, this shot is actually not connected to the previous one and is from one of the later episodes, and also this shot that got released with the Númenórean article is also from the similar sequence from a later episode. Interestingly, it looks like there is dust or ash on her, similar to this orc raid picture from the scene with the Assassin's Creed orc. Maybe there is a similarity. We then see a ship entering the coastal capital of Númenor through the supposed Valley of Kings entrance, which goes to the same city. After that, we have the beginning of Gil-galad's monologue, where he is seemingly wary of danger, stating, "Darkness will march over the face of the earth," and then it cuts to Elrond in a seemingly unknown location. One possibility could be the coastal city from earlier on. Interestingly, after we get the line again, "Darkness will march over the face of the earth," we then get our first look at Adar leading this orc host up a bridge with a battering ram, and also a man that looks like Peter Tate's character from here, the earlier image that we got with the Empire article. This is in fact the same bridge leading up to Arondir's watchtower, so maybe this leads to him being captured, or is after he gets captured and back at Bronwyn's village and there is a siege about to happen at their stronghold. Then we see Galadriel looking at a bright light while sailing to Valinor. Is she seeing the bright light of Valinor before they get sunken? We see Miriel looking up with Pharazôn to her right, and there seems to be petals falling down. Could this be before she has a vision of the downfall, especially this one in this shot? Then we get our first look at Meteor Man, but before we have the Harfoots having either sparks or even fireflies in the sky around them, and then we see Daniel Wayman as Meteor Man, and he looks really confused, which is similar to one of our leaks where he seems to be confused and forgetful when he arrives. Elrond is then led and walked into Khazad-dûm, and especially in front of him by a really cool looking dwarf who is clad in armor, even his beard. But then this is probably at the point where he presumably will meet Durin, and then the rock breaking contest occurs. Interestingly, we see this figure walking in the bottom left of the frame. This is most likely a dwarf, but could it be another mysterious figure? This is something to just look out for as things progress, but is probably quite unlikely. We then have our first look at Peter Milan as Durin III, and he says, quote, "I am sorry, but their time has come." Who and what race he's specifically referring to we don't know, but one guess could be the elves, which is why he might not have been at the dinner table shot if he is not yet already dead. Next up is Halbrand. in the Numenor throne room, which we later confirmed that was only 15% of the actual throne room that we see in the shot, and it actually has 3 layers. This is probably after Galadriel and Halbrand get saved from the shipwreck by Elendil and return to Numenor to face Tar Miriel. Interestingly, we hear Arondir say, "The past is with us all," but then we hear Elendil say, "The past is dead. We either move forward or we die with it." But during these words being spoken, we saw the same ship that was underwater but with the Sildor being on the ship, and then we have Elendil and Galadriel riding on the shore. Maybe this is them going to visit Tar Palantir? We then have our first look at Pharazôn, and in the crowd we have 2 interesting moments. Firstly, these 2 characters not looking that pleased and in conversation. Maybe they are part of the faithful. Then interestingly we have Eowyn, the daughter of Elendil, in the far right hand side, also actually looking quite pleased and happy. We do have a rumour that she is in love with Kemen, Pharazôn's son, so maybe she is being with him and actually gets persuaded by Pharazôn's side. This could lead to an interesting political dynamic in Numenor. We then see the prominence of Mithril being held by Durin, where he says this could be the beginning of a new era. Shockingly, we might be seeing the Oath of Feanor here in this scene, and this looks really similar to the domes of Tirion as well, so there is an interesting link there. We see Arondir fight a werewolf, and interestingly there is someone in there with him. Maybe he is also a part of Bronwyn's village, or maybe someone he was trying to save. Finally, we have a look at Meteor Man floating with Nori Brandyfoot, and then we see a potential Eye of Sauron hint. But Meteor Man being Sauron himself is still quite far-fetched at this stage. That is our full complete teaser trailer breakdown and Easter eggs video. Let us know if we missed anything. This trailer has gone down a lot better than the first one, with some even asking why didn't Amazon release this or do something similar to this from the get-go, because even though we are still not getting the complete and overall story of what's happening in the season, we are getting a better understanding, especially around the elves and Galadriel and Elrond. But let us know what was your favourite moment in the teaser, what things you liked, what things you didn't like. Make sure to like and subscribe because we really appreciate it. But until the next video, my friends, goodbye.